similar one on page 193. Who wants to take a... No, mow the lawn. Who likes lawn mowing? I do too. It's one of the things I miss most about being an adult and not having my own house. I'm really excited to have a house again because I get to mow the lawn. I don't know about you guys, but freshly cut grass, best smell in the world. Absolutely love it, right? It's just so incredibly good.
The best smell in the world is gas.
Okay, so I'm going back. No, I'm not there with you. Sometimes I am, but not today. No. All right, so Kian, you're going to be the object of mine since you seem to be the most emphatic about cutting the grass. So Kian is cutting the grass. Oh, look, I'm doing green for the color of grass. So we're actually gonna do. Kian is gonna mow the cemetery that I mowed growing up because I live right next to a cemetery. My dad's the pastor. You guys might say like, oh, it's super weird to be next to a cemetery. If you go up next to a cemetery, then it's not weird. You're just like, okay, well, it's right there. It was like my own backyard. So Kian mows a cemetery. It has sections A, B, and C. So he's got to mow each of the 3 sections. For A, he spends 1/5 of his time on it. For 1/5 of his time on A, 1/3 of the remaining time, 1/3 of what's left is on B. And then the question, and then we know that he spent 48 minutes on C. So the question is, how long, here we'll put this in purple, because you don't find that unless you're on flowers. How long did it take him to do it all? Where do we start? Bryson?
Without doing the math, it would at least be 2 hours 30 minutes because if C was 48 minutes, and then that would be another hour.
You're then making
2 hours.
Okay,
actually.
so you're making the assumption that each one of these is about the same size. Do we know that they're about the same size?
Around the same, but no, they're
Maybe.
not.
So I like that you're taking a quick guess at it and looking like that shows that you have good number sense, like you understand how the numbers work together. So I would kind of take that at first and be like, hey, if one of them takes 48 minutes, you're probably going to be now maybe that represents a huge section and it's much less than 2 hours, or maybe it represents a really small section and it's much bigger. So we can't know for sure, but I like that you're pointing that out in the first place. What's the first thing that we do, Isaac?
Multiply 1/5 by 1/3.
Why?
Because you have to get something to multiply 48 by it.
Nope. Jordy?
You need to find a denominator.
Nope. You don't even know what kind of denominator you're trying to find. Eventually you are going to need to do that, but unless you do the first thing right, you're going to find the wrong denominator. Yep. Nope.
No.
What's the first bit of information that you were given? Everything else builds off of that first bit of information. Yep.
Of his time. 1/5 of his time.
So we ultimately, this is what we're trying to figure out.
Put it into
But
5.
what are we given about this information? Yeah.
You have to put it into 5 groups of each.
5 groups each. The first one, I'm just going to put an A there because I know A takes up that part. Now, what's the next bit of information I was given?
1/3 of what's left. So
1/3 of what's left. How many sections are left?
4. So now you put.
What do you have to do if, just a second, what do you have to do if you have 1/3 of the 4 sections? Some of you guys said it.
Take away 3.
Mm-mm.
Find the common denominator.
Find the common denominator.
15.
Nope. You have 4 sections left and you need 1/3 of 4.
12.
12 is the common denominator. So each of these needs
5
to
can't
be,
go into 12.
12.
but it's not. It's 1/3 of what's left. There's 4 sections left, not 5 sections.
Oh.
So that's the key point. I'm glad you pointed out. That's the key point with this is that you have to say, hey, it's 1/5. Sorry, it's 1/3 of what's left. So that means 1/3 of 4. I mean, you can say 1/3 of 4, and you can do actually 1/3 times 4/1, and you're gonna get 4/3. But it doesn't really make sense when you do it that way. This is not wrong, by the way. It is gonna end up. Because watch what happens when we say, hey, that there are 4 sections left and we need 1/3 of what's left, then we say, hey, 3 and 4, common denominator is 12. So each of these 4 sections is split into
12. No. 3.
4.
3. Each of them is split into 3. And technically, this little a
I'll need to shrink it.
could also, whoops,
I'll need to shrink it.
wait, that's right here. So that is 3 out of, if this was split into 12 spots, then this is 3 out of 15, which is still 1/5. So
So
it's
we're
still
only-
the same thing. We just changed it into a similar fraction. So now, out of, here, I want to make sure that this is filled in. Out of the 12 spots that left, we need 1/3 of 12. So how many sections are going to be filled in?
1.
3. No,
Not
1.
1, not 3.
12.
What's 1/3 of
12.
12?
Actually,
Of means what?
4.
Time.
Times. So yes, the
Oh.
answer is going to be 4, because you have 1/3 times 12/1. Cancel it out. 4, 1, 4 sections. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is part B.
And then the rest is C.
Ooh, I didn't want that to happen. And then the rest is C. Yep. Whoops.
I think you need to go back to drawing.
Thank you.
Drawing school.
So how many sections do I have left that are C?
1, 2, 3,
Because I used up 3 here.
7,
There's
8.
15 total.
9,
3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 15 total. There's 8 left. So 8 of how many total?
8 of 15.
8 of 15. Because, and that is why it's really important that this A, when we split all of these into 3, we have to also split the A into 3. Because otherwise we're going to say it's not 8 out of 15. We'll say it's 8 out of
12.
We'll say it's 8 out of 12, and we'll be ignoring these. Well, the final question, we got to remember, the final question says, hey, we want to know what the whole thing is, not just we want to know what this is.
So C took 45 minutes. And there's 8.
Not 45, right?
Or 48.
Okay, so 8/15. So basically, we have, just a second
And-
here, we have 8 parts
24.
that equal how many minutes?
B's 24. Because
Just a second. We have 8 parts that equal how many minutes?
8 part 48.
48 minutes. And we want to know how many parts are there total?
There are 15.
15.
But
So before we can find out how many 15 parts are, we need to figure out how many minutes, how many parts?
How many minutes?
4.
Parts.
1.
1 part.
We got to figure out 1 part first. So to get to 1 part, we have 8. Do we multiply or divide to get to 1?
We divide.
Divide. We divide by 8. Whatever you do to one side,
1.
gotta do to the other. So 8 parts, now I have 1 part equals 48 divided by 8 is 6 minutes. But I'm not trying to, right now I have 1 part of these 15. I'm trying to find,
B would be 24 because
6
that
times 4.
has 8 and that has 4. So
But we're trying to find out the 15 parts. So if we know 1 part is 6 minutes and we're trying to find 15 parts, what do we need to do?
Times it by 15.
Multiply it by 15.
1 times 15 is 15.
And that's what we want, because we're trying, the whole thing is we're trying to get to 15 parts, because that's the whole thing. 15 parts, 6 times 15,
6 times 15.
Remember, there's 2 ways of doing this. One, you can do the good old-fashioned way. 36, and you get 90. The other part is you can say, do it in your head and say, hey, I'm going to do 10 times 6, and I'm going to do 5 times 6. This is 60, this is 30. 30 plus 60 is 90. This is how I would do it, because I want to do it, I want to take less time to do it.
I was thinking it's 40.
If you're like, hey, I want to double check with it, this is still fine. But if you feel like you can do this kind of stuff in your head, this is going to lead to a better understanding for math, and you're going to be better. But if you're like, hey, I'm still not even great at my multiplication facts, you should probably lean towards more this way. Yeah.
How is it not 40? Because 6 times that is 30. So that there's a 3 on top of that 1.
Mm-hmm.
And then, wouldn't you?
You have to do 6 times 1 then,
Oh.
and then add the 3 to that. Because you have to do 6
I don't
times 5 and then
understand.
6 times 1. Yes.
Adding according to Bryce's question about how it would be 30, it's because 5 times 5 would be 25, and then you add 5. 5 times 6 would be 30.
Yeah. Alright, so let's go back to the beginning. Bryson said about 2 hours. Was he close?
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's actually an hour 30.
Yeah, it was an hour and a half. So it ended up being that this right here took up, what, more or less time than we thought it would?
More.
More. Took up more. We thought it would be about 30. It was actually, what, closer to about half, because it ended up being 8 out of 15. But, yeah. Let's go to... Okay. Now, guided practice page number... Well, let's see here. You guys want to do guided practice 2 or guided practice 3?
You already did that.
I know you did, but I want to see your work for them.
2.